the #1 overall prospect in America, Jackson Cantwell. He was on campus in Eugene for that Duck spring game. Steve, what's the intel coming out of this one?
Well, talking to Jackson Cantwell on Monday morning, talking to his father, Christian Cantwell, it was obviously a huge visit with Oregon. It really moved the needle. Jackson told me they have it all. They do everything right. It was just a great experience overall. He got a chance to spend time with players on the team, with former offensive linemen that spoke firsthand about their experiences in Eugene. It didn't hurt that Josh Connerly just heard his name in the first round of the NFL draft. What Oregon offers their student athletes on and off the field from a branding and NIL opportunity standpoint is second to none. And so I think Jackson Cantwell left Eugene as a place he could very much see himself attending college, playing football, throwing the shot put in discus. And Oregon pitched some unique ideas from a branding standpoint of what they can do with that and the resources that they would have behind that. You know, obviously, with them being the Nike program that they are, the folks that he got a chance to talk to on campus that make those things happen. So Oregon is trending up for Jackson Cantwell. I obviously logged an on-3 RPM in favor of Georgia last week because that's where the pulse was, the Bulldogs being in the driver's seat. Georgia's been in the driver's seat for a lot of this recruitment, going back 2 summers ago when he started hitting the road and checking out his favorite programs. I think he's always felt comfortable with Georgia and what they offer and how they develop their athletes and how they're always in contention for championships. But this visit to Oregon showed him that Oregon's on the cusp, the defending Big Ten champs, and everything else that we just talked about. Oregon is trending. Now, Georgia gets one more visit from him in May before he announces his decision on May 13th. He'll be at Georgia again. May 10th, he's visited all of his other finalists. I think Oregon's got some momentum here. Yeah. We'll see what Georgia does. We'll see what Miami and Mario Cristobal does over the next couple weeks as they continue to push and have final conversations with Jackson Cantwell, his family, and his representations. But if you're Oregon, if you're an Oregon fan, you're very excited coming out of this visit, which was perhaps his best one yet of the process.
A good time to have that best visit. It'll be his last time in Eugene before his decision. Won't be his last face-to-face with the Oregon coaching staff as they can go in-home during the spring eval period, which I'm sure they will before his big decision in about 2 weeks. So we like where Oregon sits with Jackson Cantwell, but they still have a little bit to go. But you put in a new prediction for a top target, not Cantwell. Tell Oregon fans who you've predicted to the Ducks.
Wilt Fong Whip Around is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time is the hot ticket app for fans that are looking for those last-minute, hard-to-find, hard-to-get tickets. It's tournament season. Looking to be at the biggest games in March with friends or loved ones, Game Time has you covered. And Game Time is about maximizing value. So they're going to find you the best bang for your buck. In fact, right now on my Game Time app, I'm looking for Pacers tickets, an opportunity to see the best players in the NBA, and I'm finding tickets in club level for $23, and there's no hidden fees. Game Time Picks. Curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. All-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front, which again, no surprise fees at checkout. You get your seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code ON3 ON3 for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Yeah, I like where Oregon continues to stand with one of the nation's top defensive line recruits, edge rusher Richard Wesley, who was back in Oregon over the weekend. It was his 4th visit to campus. They're very familiar with the program. I talked to his father, Jonathan, on Monday morning, and he just talked about how Oregon's already trying to integrate him into the program, integrate him with the coaches, the scheme, the players. The players took him out after the spring game. He had a fantastic time. He feels very comfortable at Oregon, seeing what they've been able to do with Mateo Uiagalelei, who is a projected first rounder next year. That spot will be open. Richard Wesley could walk into that. He loves the scheme fit, the way they develop their players, the emphasis on the defensive line from Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy. Oregon is checking a lot of boxes for Richard Wesley going into the official visits. Now they'll have to maintain the lead I perceive them to have, as Ohio State is very prominent in this recruitment following a spring visit. Same goes for the Texas Longhorns. The resources, the coaching, the level of play of those programs also has them as main contenders for Richard Wesley. Texas A&M, he's been there a couple times, has a lot of love for the Aggies, and USC doing everything they can to keep him in state. But I think everybody is chasing Oregon right now going into the next wave of visits.
All right. So there was a couple other big names on campus, including Brandon Arrington, Messiah Hampton, among others. Steve, what else do Duck fans need to know coming out of this big visit weekend?
Well, I like the way it's trending for Brandon Arrington Jr. as well. 5-star, number 1 ranked corner in the country per the On3 industry, making his second visit to Oregon this calendar year. Kind of similar to Jackson Cantwell, what they offer, prominent dual sport athletes at the school, what they can do for them on and off the field from a resources and branding standpoint is very exciting. The way that Oregon has developed players in the secondary, what Dan Lanning's done historically, he pointed to that. Dan Lanning, Tosh Lupoy, working for guys like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart in their career, and the way they have Oregon on the rise. Similar to Jackson Cantwell, he talked to former players that were on campus about their experience in Eugene and how excited they are about the program and what kind of fit it would be for Brandon Arrington. I think Oregon is trending up, but he is going to take his official visits, and we'll see where things stand following those trips. You know, Alabama's had momentum, Texas A&M has had momentum, USC's gotten them to campus a few times. And so those are just some of the other contenders here for Brandon Arrington. But the Ducks, I think it's a place that he could really see himself, and it was another great trip to Eugene. Messiah Hampton, one of the more electric receivers in the country from the state of New York. Ross Douglas is the lead recruiter. He came from Syracuse, where he was recruiting Messiah Hampton. That relationship has been a seamless transition to Eugene. He's already been out a couple times now. Talked to a source this morning that thought the top 3 was Oregon, Miami, and Syracuse. But Oregon is on the gas for Messiah Hampton. They're one of the favorites here at the end for 4-star receiver Caden Dixon-Wyatt, who visited Oregon twice this spring. They're battling Ohio State and USC for him. And then I have an on-3 RPM in favor of Oregon for Jalen Lott at the wide receiver position. He was at USC this weekend. He's a top target for the Trojans. So Oregon in the mix strongly for some of these coveted 2026 prospects as they push for the nation's number 1 class. For them to get there, I think they got to land Jackson Cantwell. They got Jared Curtis, 5-star quarterback, still in play. I don't think he's made a final decision, Josh. He's got down to Georgia and Oregon. Obviously, he's going to commit next Monday. Between those two programs, and he's having final conversations with Oregon and Georgia. And every time Oregon talks to him, they just point towards that prolific offense, the quarterback development. Dylan Gabriel just went in the 3rd round. Bo Nix went in the 1st round. Those guys have lit it up at Oregon as of late. High expectations for Dante Moore. The offense is ranked in the top 5 nationally. Will Stein has quickly built himself up as with the reputation of being one of the best offensive coordinators in the land. Jared Curtis sees himself thriving in Eugene, but there are a lot of things pulling him to Georgia as well. These two programs battling down the stretch for Jared Curtis.
Yeah, and I'm reading the Wilt Fong Whip Around. You know, my Monday routine is wake up, brush my teeth, read the Wilt Fong Whip Around, and then get to work. So I'm reading the Wilt Fong Whip Around, and one of your headlines really struck me. If I'm an Oregon fan, and we're a week out from Jared Curtis making his decision, and your headline is still in it for 5-star QB Jared Curtis, still in it is not what I want to hear as an Oregon fan 1 week from his decision. Do you really feel like are they just really hanging on here?
Well, I think that you're excited to read that because a lot of the buzz recently has been about Georgia's trending again for Jared Curtis. And I'm saying not so fast. Oregon is not dead here. Oregon is very much alive. Jared Curtis could very much see him wearing the million different jerseys that Oregon has on Saturdays, throwing for a bunch of yards, playing in a prolific offense. So Oregon still alive. There is no, to my knowledge, a final decision has not been made. The video has not been cut. The graphics have not been made. He is still weighing on his college decision between Georgia and Oregon, and working through his process. And if he ended up in Eugene, I would not be surprised.
Whew. All right, Duck fans, how are you guys feeling about Cantwell, about Curtis? How many does Oregon land? Let me know. Comment section below. Do you think they land 1 of 2, 2 of 2, 0 for 2? Let us know.